The whispers started subtly, insidious as the tendrils of mist that snaked through the forbidden forest on a moonless night. At first, Harry dismissed them as lingering echoes of the Chamber of Secrets, a phantom chill from the basilisk's gaze. But as the summer bled into autumn, and the familiar routines of Hogwarts failed to staunch the encroaching dread, the whispers grew bolder. They were not voices, not exactly, but insidious suggestions, dark impulses that weren't his own. He'd catch himself staring at Ron, a sudden, inexplicable urge to snarl, to lash out. Hermione's diligent explanations in Charms class would sometimes ignite a spark of cold fury, a desire to silence her, to dismiss her logic with a cutting remark. Then, the horror would strike. This wasn't him. This wasn't the Harry who valued his friends above all else, who chafed at injustice and protected the vulnerable. This was something else. Something dark. His scar, a jagged lightning bolt branding his forehead, pulsed with an ache that had become his constant companion. It wasn't just physical. It felt like a nerve ending directly connected to a cesspool of malice. He saw flashes, a pale, bony hand clenching a wand, a serpent's cold, unblinking eye, a chillingly familiar laugh that wasn't his own but resonated deep in his bones. Voldemort. It had to be Voldemort. The connection, once a distant, terrifying echo, was now a persistent hum beneath his skin, a corrupting influence leaching into his very soul. Sleep offered no respite, only vivid, blood-soaked nightmares that left him waking in a cold sweat, gasping for air. He was a prisoner in his own mind, his thoughts no longer entirely his own. Fear gnawed at him, a visceral terror that he was becoming him. The hero who had defeated the Dark Lord as a baby, who had faced him twice more, was slowly, inexorably, turning into the very monster he fought. Dumbledore, with his twinkling eyes and knowing smiles, hadn't noticed. Or perhaps he had, and had chosen to ignore it. Harry was alone, adrift in a sea of encroaching darkness, terrified of what he might become. One dreary Tuesday, during a particularly mind-numbing history of magic lecture, the whispers grew so loud, so demanding, that Harry barely suppressed a growl. A phantom wave of rage washed over him, a desire to smash the dusty blackboard, to silence Professor Binns' droning voice with something permanent. His hands clenched beneath the desk, nails digging into his palms. When the bell finally shrieked, dismissing them, Harry practically bolted from the classroom, needing air, needing space. As he hurried down a deserted corridor, his breath coming in ragged gasps, a voice, ancient and dry as parchment, stopped him. "Mr. Potter." "A word, if you please." Harry spun around, his hand instinctively gripping his wand. Standing a few paces behind him was Professor Galen Ashworth, the eccentric professor of ancient runes. Ashworth was an old man, stooped with age, his face a roadmap of wrinkles, but his eyes, behind spectacles perched precariously on his nose, were sharp, piercing, and disconcertingly intelligent. He wasn't known for idle chit-chat, nor for observing students in corridors. "Professor Ashworth?" Harry managed, his voice hoarse. "You look as though you've just wrestled a Grindylow and lost, Mr. Potter," Ashworth observed, his tone devoid of judgment, merely an astute observation. "Come to my office. We have much to discuss." Harry hesitated. Ashworth was an enigma, rarely seen outside his classroom or the dusty depths of the library's restricted section. But there was something in the professor's gaze, a knowing glint, that pulled at Harry. He felt a desperate, irrational hope bloom in his chest. Perhaps this man, with his ancient knowledge, might understand. He followed Ashworth through winding corridors, up a narrow, forgotten staircase, to a door tucked away in a remote tower. The office was a riot of controlled chaos. Bookshelves overflowed, ancient scrolls were piled on every surface, and strange, rune-carved artifacts glowed faintly in the dim light. The air hummed with faint magic, a mix of old parchment and potent, esoteric energies. Ashworth gestured to a worn armchair opposite his desk, then settled into his own, pushing aside a stack of crumbling texts. "Tea," he offered, not waiting for an answer as he conjured 2 steaming mugs, the scent of a calming herbal brew filling the air. Harry took a tentative sip. The warmth spread through him, easing some of the tension that had been a constant companion. "You're experiencing rather disturbing internal phenomena, aren't you, Mr. Potter?" Ashworth began, his eyes fixed on Harry. Mood swings, unbidden aggression, moments of chilling insight into other minds. A sense of a foreign presence attempting to corrupt and control. Harry's breath hitched. It was as if Ashworth had peered directly into his soul. How did you know?" "My dear boy, I have made a lifetime study of esoteric magic, particularly that which pertains to the soul," Ashworth said, a faint, almost pitying smile touching his lips. "And I have been observing you, discreetly, since your rather harrowing experience in the Chamber of Secrets last year. The residue left by a true Horcrux is usually dormant, an anchor to life, stable within its container. But what you carry, Mr. Potter, is something altogether different." Ashworth leaned forward, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "You are not burdened by a true Horcrux, Harry. You are afflicted by a soul leech. Harry stared, utterly bewildered. "A soul leech? What does that even mean?" "Imagine a true Horcrux as a perfectly crafted vase, holding a piece of a wizard's soul, keeping it safe and dormant," Ashworth explained, conjuring a faint, shimmering outline of a vase in the air. "A soul leech, however, is not a container. It is a wild, parasitic piece of soul, violently ripped from its progenitor, unstable and desperate. It latches onto a living host, you, in this case, and rather than merely existing, it feeds. It feeds on your magic, your emotions, your very essence. It seeks to corrupt, to dominate, to subsume your identity into its own." The shimmering vase dissipated, replaced by a flickering, shadowy tendril that seemed to writhe in the air. Harry recoiled. "Voldemort's soul was already deeply fractured when he attacked you as an infant," Ashworth continued, observing Harry's reaction. "The magical backfire, instead of creating a stable Horcrux, caused a volatile piece of his already damaged soul to shatter and latch onto the nearest available life force, which happened to be you. It sought refuge, yes, but it also saw an opportunity for continued existence, for slow, insidious growth." Harry felt a cold knot of dread tighten in his stomach. "So, I'm just going to become like him?" Ashworth fixed him with a steady, unyielding gaze. "Not necessarily. This is where the distinction becomes crucial, and where a terrifying opportunity presents itself. Because a soul leech is active, parasitic, and still connected to its progenitor's essence, it carries echoes of his mind. Memories. Knowledge. Skills." Harry's mind reeled. Knowledge of Voldemort? The flashes he'd seen, the chilling insights. "Most wizards would seek to destroy such an entity," Ashworth went on, "but a soul leech, so deeply entwined with your own being, cannot be destroyed without destroying you in the process. It has become a part of your magical signature, your very life force. But what cannot be destroyed, Mr. Potter, can be tamed." The word hung in the air, heavy with unspoken implications. "Tamed," Harry whispered, his voice barely audible. "Yes. Bound. Dominated. It requires immense mental fortitude, relentless self-control, and a will stronger than the Dark Lord's own. It would be a perilous journey, a constant battle within your own mind. The leech will fight you, seek to consume you, to make you subservient to its progenitor's will. It will try to make you him." Ashworth's expression was grim, devoid of the usual professorial twinkle. "But if you succeed, if you can truly master it, you will gain access to its deepest memories, its knowledge, its fears, and even its unique magical talents. You would wield Voldemort's own power, his own secrets, as a weapon against him." The proposal was breathtaking in its audacity, horrifying in its implications. Harry felt a shiver run down his spine, a mix of fear and a strange, potent allure. To look into Voldemort's mind? To use his own darkness against him? The ethical quandaries screamed in his head, a chorus of "this is wrong, this is dangerous, this is dark magic." Hermione's disapproving frown, Dumbledore's pronouncements about love and light, echoed in his ears. But then he thought of Sirius, unfairly imprisoned. He thought of Cedric Diggory, the innocent life Voldemort might take next. He thought of his parents, murdered. He thought of the terror in the chamber, the sheer helplessness. He thought of the whispers that were slowly, inexorably, stealing his own identity. This wasn't about becoming Voldemort. It was about defeating him. On his own terms. With every advantage he could seize. The power, the knowledge, it was a monstrous tool, but perhaps, in the right hands, the only tool capable of stopping a monster. He met Ashworth's unwavering gaze, a spark of grim determination replacing the fear in his eyes. "Tell me what I need to do, Professor," Harry said, his voice firm, unwavering. "I'll do it. I'll tame it." Ashworth merely nodded, a faint, almost imperceptible smile touching his lips. "Very well, Mr. Potter. Be warned, this journey will redefine you. It will tear you apart and rebuild you, stronger or broken. But we begin tomorrow, in the deepest reaches of your own mind. And know this, once you step onto this path, there is no turning back." The air in Professor Ashworth's office felt thick with dust and ancient knowledge, a stark contrast to the sterile, oppressive silence Harry had grown accustomed to in his own mind. Ashworth, perched on the edge of his worn oak desk, amidst tottering piles of scrolls and leather-bound tomes, regarded Harry with an unblinking gaze. The elderly wizard's eyes, magnified by spectacles that often slipped down his nose, seemed to peer not at Harry, but through him, directly to the insidious presence that coiled beneath his scar. "You understand the gravity of your choice, Harry," Ashworth said, his voice a low, gravelly murmur that nonetheless commanded attention. "This is not a game. It is a war waged within your own mind, and the stakes are your very identity. Failure means oblivion, a slow corruption until what remains is merely a puppet, a new vessel for the Dark Lord's will." Harry swallowed, his throat dry. "I understand, sir. But I can't let it win. I won't." The words were a defiant shield against the fear that gnawed at his stomach. Ashworth nodded slowly. "Good. That defiance, that stubborn will, is your greatest weapon. Now listen carefully. The soul leech is not a Horcrux in the traditional sense. It is wild, uncontrolled, a predator. But like any predator, it has instincts, habits. It feeds on your magic, your emotions, but it also contains fragments of its progenitor's existence. Memories, skills, even raw magical affinity. Our goal is not to destroy it, for it is part of you now. Our goal is to bind it, to master it, to force it into submission and make its immense potential your own." He gestured to a cleared space on the floor, where a thick, circular rug woven with complex runic patterns lay. "Sit, cross-legged. Close your eyes. We begin with the most fundamental lesson, control, not suppression. You cannot fight a shadow by wishing it away. You must acknowledge it, face it, and then exert your will over it." Harry sat, the coarse wool of the rug scratching at his trousers. He closed his eyes, instantly feeling the familiar phantom ache behind his scar, a cold knot of dread. "Focus on that feeling," Ashworth instructed, his voice now softer, a hypnotic cadence. "Don't resist it. Don't push it away. Just feel it. Imagine it as a distinct entity, separate from your own core, yet intertwined. Breathe. Feel your own magic, the warmth that flows within you, the spark of life that is uniquely Harry Potter." Harry tried. He focused on his breathing, on the slow thump of his heart. He tried to separate the insidious coldness from the comforting warmth of his own magic. It was like trying to untangle smoke from air. The coldness pulsed, a faint thrumming against the inside of his skull, and with it came the subtlest of whispers, not words, but a sensation of ancient malice, of profound contempt for everything he was. "It resists," Harry murmured, a tremor in his voice. "Of course it resists," Ashworth said, a hint of steel in his tone. "It senses a threat to its autonomy. It will try to disorient you, to frighten you. Do not let it. You are the host. You are the living being. It is the parasite. Assert your dominance. Push back, not with anger, but with pure, unyielding will. Imagine your own essence as a brilliant light, radiating outwards, pressing against the darkness." Harry grit his teeth. He envisioned a golden light, born from the core of his being, spreading through his veins, through his very bones. He pushed it towards his scar, towards the cold, slithering sensation that now felt like a viper coiled around his mind. The whispers intensified, clawing at the edges of his sanity. Images, fleeting and disjointed, flashed behind his closed eyelids, a skeletal hand gripping a wand, a flash of sickly green light, a sensation of immense, terrible power. He recoiled, gasping, his mental light flickering. Too much, too fast, Ashworth observed calmly. You sought to overwhelm it. That is a brute force approach. The leech is intelligent, ancient. It responds to subtlety, to mastery. Again, find your center. Focus. Let your will be like a river, steadily eroding stone, not a flash flood. Days bled into weeks. Each evening after classes, Harry would sneak to Ashworth's office, often exhausted, sometimes trembling, but always determined. The training was relentless. Ashworth never let up, pushing Harry to the brink of his mental endurance. He taught Harry ancient meditation techniques, subtle occlumency variants focused not on shielding, but on internal mapping and bizarre, forgotten rituals that involved nothing more than focused intent and a drop of Harry's own blood, smeared onto the runic rug. Slowly, painstakingly, Harry began to gain a foothold. The coldness still pulsed, the whispers still came, but he could now recognize them as distinct from his own thoughts. He could feel the leech attempting to stir his own emotions, anger, fear, despair, trying to make them its own fuel. But Harry, remembering Ashworth's constant refrain of control, not suppression, learned to observe these feelings, to acknowledge them, and then to consciously redirect his internal energy, starving the leech of its preferred sustenance. Then came the breakthroughs. One evening, deep in meditation, Harry was pushing his mental light against the resisting presence in his scar. He wasn't trying to banish it, but to observe it, to understand its texture, its nature. As his focus intensified, a strange vibration resonated through his skull, and then a sudden, violent lurch. A flash, brighter and more coherent than anything before. He was no longer Harry Potter, sitting on a rug. He was standing in a lavishly appointed room, all dark wood and velvet. His hands, no, these weren't his hands, were long, slender, adorned with an emerald ring. A powerful, heady scent of expensive parchment and dark magic filled the air. He felt a surge of arrogant pleasure, a chilling satisfaction, as he looked down at a figure writhing on the floor, bound by invisible ropes. The figure's face was pale, contorted in agony, eyes wide with terror. A familiar face. A ministry official he'd seen in a newspaper clipping. And then a thought, clear as a bell, though utterly alien, weak, pathetic. They all crumble so easily. Harry gasped, tearing himself out of the vision with a jolt that sent him sprawling on the rug. His heart hammered against his ribs. Sweat slicked his face. The room, Ashworth's office, swam into focus, feeling impossibly mundane after the brief, terrifying immersion. Ashworth was watching him, his expression unreadable. A memory? Harry nodded, trembling. Yes. Horrible. He was torturing someone. A ministry official. I could feel his pleasure. His contempt. Harry shuddered, pressing his hands to his scar. The phantom echo of that dark satisfaction lingered, sickening. Excellent, Ashworth said, to Harry's astonishment. Disturbing, but a clear access point. You did not merely observe, you experienced a sliver of his consciousness. You felt what he felt. That is the connection we seek to master. What else? Anything else specific? Harry closed his eyes, forcing himself to remember the details beyond the horror. The room. Dark. A very specific type of, a strange, intricate pattern on the ceiling. And the ring. A signet ring. Emerald with a snake. Ashworth's eyes gleamed. The gaunt ring. Long thought lost or destroyed. A valuable piece of insight. You see, Harry? He is not merely a monster in a faraway castle. His past, his methods, his secrets, they are now within your grasp, if you can steel yourself to reach for them. The memories became more frequent, more vivid, though still fragmented. Harry saw glimpses of Voldemort's youth, his time at Hogwarts, twisted experiments, the relentless pursuit of power and immortality. He witnessed moments of cold calculation, strategic brilliance, and utter ruthlessness that chilled him to the bone. He saw Voldemort perfecting dark spells, creating subtle curses, manipulating others with unnerving ease. The sheer breadth of Voldemort's magical knowledge, the depth of his research into forbidden arts, was staggering. But with each memory, Harry felt the Leech trying to assert itself, to inject its own malevolence into his thoughts. He found himself thinking darker thoughts, contemplating crueler solutions to minor problems. He caught himself observing his classmates with a detached, almost predatory analytical eye, much like the Voldemort he glimpsed. Hermione, ever observant, started to notice his withdrawal, the subtle shift in his gaze. "Harry, are you all right?" she asked one evening in the common room, finding him staring blankly into the fire, lost in thought. "You've been so quiet lately. And you look absolutely exhausted. Are you sleeping?" Harry forced a smile. "Fine, Hermione. Just extra studies. Ashworth's Ancient Runes class is more demanding than I thought. Lots of complex theory." It was a half-truth, but Hermione, ever eager for academic challenge, bought it, though her brow remained furrowed with concern. She'd always worried about him. He had to keep her safe, keep her innocent of this terrible burden. The confrontation with himself came after a particularly harrowing session. Harry had witnessed Voldemort performing a complex ritual, sacrificing several muggles with an unsettling calm, meticulously drawing on their life force to power a nascent dark artifact. The vision had been so clear, the sensation of power so intoxicating, that Harry had felt a terrifying, fleeting desire to understand that power, to replicate it. He'd almost fallen, almost embraced the insidious allure. He'd stumbled out of Ashworth's office, sick to his stomach, the taste of ash in his mouth. He found himself staring at his reflection in a dark window, seeing not just his own weary face, but a shadow of something else, something cold and calculating, lurking behind his eyes. "Is this what I'm becoming?" The thought screamed in his mind. "Is this the only way to beat him? To become him?" He went back to Ashworth, fear, rage, and disgust warring within him. "I can't do this," he choked out, collapsing into a chair. "It's too much. I felt a connection to that evil. I almost wanted it." Ashworth looked at him, his gaze unwavering. "And you recognized that desire. You recoiled. That is the victory, Harry. That is the control. The Leech is a conduit to Voldemort's mind, yes. But it is still your mind that observes, that processes, that chooses. The power is neutral. It is your intent that defines its use. Do you intend to become him, or to wield his own weapons against him?" Harry looked at his mentor, then down at his trembling hands. He remembered Voldemort's casual cruelty, his disregard for life, the chilling laughter that echoed in the brief glimpses of his past. He thought of his parents, of Cedric, of the innocent victims. He thought of Hermione and Ron, of Dumbledore, of everyone he had ever fought to protect. A cold resolve, sharper and more potent than any fear, settled in his heart. This wasn't about becoming Voldemort. This was about stripping him bare, using his own knowledge, his own power, to bring him down. On his terms. He looked up at Ashworth, his eyes burning with a new, fierce determination. "I will wield his weapons," Harry said, his voice quiet but firm. "I will use everything it offers. I will master it. And I will destroy him." Ashworth simply nodded, a faint, approving smile playing on his lips. "Then we are truly ready, Harry. Ready to delve deeper. Ready to uncover his greatest secrets. For now, the game has indeed begun." Harry felt a chilling tremor, not of fear, but of anticipation. He knew now. His scar, once a curse, was now a key. And he was ready to turn it. The silence of the room of requirement was usually a comfort, a sanctuary Harry built in his mind. Now it was a battleground. He sat cross-legged on a plush velvet cushion, eyes closed, hands resting lightly on his knees. Around him, the room manifested as a swirling, gray void, reflecting the turbulent landscape of his mind. The scar on his forehead throbbed, a relentless drumbeat against the inside of his skull. "Focus, Potter," Ashworth's voice echoed, though the professor was not physically present. Harry had learned to conjure his mentor's mental presence, a projection of his disciplined will, to guide these solitary sessions. The memories aren't a flood to drown in, but a river to navigate. You are the pilot, not the passenger. Harry pushed through the nausea. The river was a torrent today, fragments of Lord Voldemort's consciousness assailing him. Glimpses of shadowed figures, snatches of archaic Latin, the metallic tang of blood and ozone. He felt a surge of cold fury, an alien contempt for muggles and mudbloods that made his stomach churn. This wasn't him. It couldn't be. Separate, Ashworth's mental voice urged, cutting through the chaos. Filter. What is noise? What is signal? Your will is the sieve. Harry grimaced, biting down on his lip until he tasted copper. He concentrated on the central command, control. He wasn't trying to suppress, but to categorize, to examine. He pictured himself standing on a mental bridge, watching the murky waters flow beneath. Slowly, painfully, he began to distinguish patterns. A recurring image flickered past, a dimly lit cavern, jagged stalactites hanging like teeth, a low hum of concealed magic. Voldemort's thoughts associated with it were vague, a dismissive mental note about an outpost, a contingency. Harry felt a spark of unease. Why was this insignificant location resurfacing now? It wasn't a memory of a past event. It felt more like a lingering presence in Voldemort's current awareness, something he hadn't focused on, but hadn't forgotten either. Suddenly, a jolt, sharp and intrusive. Not a memory, but an instinct. A cold, serpentine whisper that wasn't quite words, but a sensation of urgency, of something being set in motion. The cavern, the outpost. A low-level follower, Rookwood, was mentioned in passing, a man Harry knew was currently serving Azkaban, yet the memory carried a chilling present-tense quality, almost like a fleeting plan of using his resources, or rather, his name. A flicker of something about a clandestine meeting, a minor disruption. It was subtle, almost too ephemeral to grasp, but the Leech provided a vivid mental blueprint, a secluded spot in Scotland, a forgotten relay station for magical communications, a target. Harry's eyes snapped open. The room of requirement solidified back into its usual comfortable chaos, bookshelves overflowing, ancient instruments humming. He was trembling, a cold sweat dampening his brow. The Leech, in its fleeting clarity, had just given him a premonition. A tiny, insidious plot unfolding, spearheaded by someone taking advantage of an old network, spurred by Rookwood's loyalists. He found Ashworth that evening in his study, a cozy room brimming with arcane artifacts and the scent of parchment and old tea. The professor, spectacles perched on his nose, was poring over a scroll etched with runes that writhed like living serpents. Trouble, Potter? Ashworth didn't even look up, merely gestured to a worn armchair opposite him. Harry sank into it. I saw something. Or felt it. A plan. Minor, I think, but real. A magical communications relay north of Inverness. Rookwood's name was associated with it. Something about disruption, sowing discord. He stumbled over the words, trying to convey the slippery, half-formed nature of the information. Ashworth finally looked up, his sharp gaze penetrating. A signal, not noise. Excellent. Tell me exactly what you felt. Leave nothing out, however absurd. Harry recounted the fragmented vision, the cavern-like outpost, the hum, the vague urgency. Ashworth listened intently, stroking his neatly trimmed beard. The Leech, like its progenitor, traffics in information, Ashworth mused. Sometimes it's a direct memory. Sometimes it's a shadow of intent, a ripple in the fabric of the progenitor's current thoughts. This outpost you describe. I know of a few such places, ancient ley line junctions, often repurposed by less savory groups for their own ends. A communications relay, you say? Disrupting the prophet's printing presses or the ministry's outpost could cause panic, breed distrust. A petty, yet effective, act of terrorism. But how do I know it's real? It felt like a whisper. Harry pressed, the doubt gnawing at him. And how do I stop it without telling anyone where I got the information? Ashworth steepled his fingers. That, Potter, is the tightrope you walk. You possess knowledge others do not, gained through means they would condemn. You must learn to verify without revealing, to act without betraying your secret. The temptation here is not just to use the power, but to simply know. To believe that because you perceived it, it must be true, and thus act recklessly. Control is paramount. Domination means discerning when to trust its insights and when to question them. He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a low, serious tone. Ancient lore speaks of those who tried to wield such powers without absolute control. They became extensions of the fragments they sought to master. Their own wills eroded, their minds twisted. They became puppets, indistinguishable from the very darkness they claimed to fight. You are not just fighting Voldemort, Harry. You are fighting the very essence of what he represents, both within and without. Harry swallowed, the weight of Ashworth's words pressing down on him. So, what do I do? You find a plausible path, Ashworth replied, a hint of a smile playing on his lips. You are famous for blind luck, are you not? Perhaps that lucky streak extends to overhearing crucial conversations or stumbling upon obscure details. Over the next few days, Harry walked a careful line. He found Hermione in the library, as usual, surrounded by towering stacks of books on ancient runes and magical theory. He subtly steered the conversation. Hermione, have you ever noticed how the wizarding wireless sometimes cuts out in certain areas? Harry asked, feigning casual curiosity, flicking through a book on obscure communication charms. Like, really remote places in Scotland? Hermione, ever the fount of knowledge, looked up immediately. Oh yes, it's fascinating. The magical currents can be so temperamental. I was just reading about the early days of intercoven communication. Did you know some of the ancient relay stations were built on powerful ley lines, but they've largely been abandoned since the Ministry developed its centralized network? Apparently, they're prone to interference if not properly maintained. Interference or deliberate disruption? Harry probed carefully, watching her. Could someone still use one for, say, a localized attack? Hermione's brow furrowed. Technically, yes, but it would require specialized knowledge to reactivate one of those old stations and then to amplify the disruption enough to cause significant problems. It would be a rather crude, almost theatrical act. Why, Harry, have you heard something? Her eyes narrowed, always perceptive. Harry had been unusually quiet and intense lately, something she'd noticed with growing concern. Just a thought, Harry quickly dismissed, from something I read. He fed her more crumbs of information, carefully nudging her towards research on these forgotten relay stations and archaic disruption charms. Hermione, delighted by a new intellectual challenge, dove in headfirst. Within a day, she'd unearthed old Ministry reports about a specific abandoned relay station near Glen Affric, deep in the Scottish Highlands. The reports detailed its vulnerability to interference if certain protective wards were disabled. More importantly, she found a forgotten notation mentioning a minor, disgraced Ministry official with known Rookwood sympathies, a man named Tiberius Thorn, who had been involved in its initial construction decades ago. Thorn. That's it. The Leech had flickered on his name, a memory of a low-ranking follower, a sycophant, an opportunist. Not Rookwood himself, but one of his less-than-bright associates, attempting to make a name for himself. The details Hermione uncovered, coupled with the Leech's persistent hum of urgency, cemented Harry's conviction. This wasn't just a ghost of a thought, it was a burgeoning plot. That night, Harry penned an anonymous note, distorting the information just enough to make it seem like a lucky guess. He described overhearing fragments of conversation about the Glen Affric relay and disrupting communication on Friday at midnight, led by Thorn's lackeys. He sent it via an anonymous owl to the head Auror's office. He spent the rest of the day in a state of agitated anticipation, the Leech thrumming under his skin, a coiled serpent ready to strike. He could feel Voldemort's general contempt, his mind occupied with grander schemes, oblivious to the small-scale machinations of his minor followers. Yet, the Leech knew, and that knowledge was now Harry's. Saturday morning's Daily Prophet carried a small, understated article on page 7, Ministry Orders thwart minor sabotage attempt in Highlands. It detailed the swift apprehension of Tiberius Thorn and 2 accomplices, caught red-handed attempting to dismantle a disused magical communication relay. The Ministry assured the public that no significant disruption occurred, and praised the vigilance of an anonymous tipster. Harry felt a surge of triumph, cold and exhilarating. Lives hadn't been put at risk. Panic had been averted. He had done it. But then a more insidious feeling crept in, the sheer power of it. The ability to know, to anticipate, to move unseen, guided by an enemy's own thoughts. The temptation to simply delve deeper, to take more, to become faster, stronger, more ruthless. He met Ashworth later, under the guise of an ancient runes project. Success, I gather? Ashworth observed, a knowing glint in his eyes. Yes, Harry confirmed, trying to keep his voice steady. They were caught. No damage, no casualties. It worked. And how did it feel, Potter? To wield such knowledge, to avert a nascent threat, to operate beyond the purview of traditional justice. Harry hesitated. Powerful. Frightening. It felt right to stop them. But the power, it felt good. Too good. It was so easy, Professor. The Leech just showed me. I didn't have to work for it. I just knew. Ashworth nodded slowly. That is the heart of the ethical boundary, Harry. The Leech offers shortcuts, promises omnipotence. It seduces. It whispers that your impulses, fueled by its insights, are infallible. It will blur the lines between your own righteous anger and Voldemort's cold cruelty. Your thoughts will become intertwined with its own until you risk losing yourself entirely. He paused, he leaned back, a pensive expression on his face. This was a minor skirmish, Harry. A test of control. But Voldemort is not idle. His ambitions are vast, his schemes far more intricate than some low-level disruption. As you delve deeper, the temptations will intensify. The knowledge you uncover will become more horrifying, more seductive. You will see things that will shake you to your core, plans that will demand a greater price. Are you prepared to pay it? Harry looked down at his hands, clenching them into fists. The Leech stirred within him, no longer a frantic whisper, but a deep, resonant hum, a promise of hidden depths, of secrets yet to be plundered. A fleeting, chilling vision flashed behind his eyes, not a minor outpost, but a vast, ancient chamber, filled with an unholy glow, where dark magic pulsed with terrifying intensity. A ritual. Something grander, far more devastating. The price, he realized, was not just knowledge, but an unwavering will against the darkness that now offered itself as his greatest ally. He had to go deeper. There was no other choice. The room of requirement thrummed with a familiar, yet increasingly subordinate, energy. Harry sat cross-legged on the cool stone floor, eyes closed, his mind a vast, silent lake. The soul Leech, once a raging torrent within him, was now a disciplined current, flowing precisely where he willed it. He had moved beyond mere observation, beyond allowing its insidious thoughts to surface. Now he commanded. He pushed, a subtle mental pressure, along the established pathways, seeking deeper, darker recesses within the fragmented mind. It was like navigating a shattered mirror, each shard a distorted memory, an echo of obsession, a whisper of power. The sensations were potent, bursts of cold fury, sharp pangs of ambition, the tantalizing lure of forbidden knowledge. But he no longer flinched. He allowed the emotions to wash over him, observing them without engagement, an objective voyager in another's Hell's Cape. He saw glimpses of Tom Riddle's youth, the cruel experiments in the orphanage, the calculated charm applied to vulnerable adults. He saw Hogwarts through Riddle's eyes, a place to be plundered, its secrets dissected, its power harnessed. Then, as he delved deeper, the fragments became less linear, more abstract. He perceived a feeling more than an image, an insatiable hunger for permanence, a terror of death so profound it twisted magic into obscenity. And amidst that primordial fear, a recurring motif began to coalesce. Not a memory, but a plan. A design of terrifying intricacy. Harry focused, sifting through the cacophony of Voldemort's obsessions. He felt a profound sense of anticipation, a malignant glee emanating from the core of the Leech, and realized this wasn't just a memory of a past event, but a blueprint for a future one. He saw arcane runic circles etched into ancient earth, pulsing with a dark, primal energy. Glimpses of a hidden chamber, deep beneath a land scarred by time and magic. It was not the chamber of secrets, This was older, far more potent. He saw rare components. The blood of a phoenix, not for healing, but for corruption. The skeletal remains of a creature of ancient evil, its power to be siphoned, and specific celestial alignments, crucial for the ritual's potency. There was a specific incantation, a guttural chant that seemed to tear at the fabric of reality itself. This wasn't simply about regaining a body. This was a second ascension. Voldemort wasn't just seeking to return. He was seeking to return stronger, purer, with a vessel that transcended the limitations of his previous forms. A body resilient to conventional magic, perhaps even immune to the lingering effects of the sacrifice that had saved Harry. And, terrifyingly, it seemed to be drawing on vast reserves of ambient magic, draining ancient ley lines across Britain like a vampiric parasite. The ritual wasn't an isolated event. It was a complex, multi-stage process, slowly gathering power. Harry tore himself away, gasping, the room of requirements calm suddenly feeling alien. The sheer ambition, the depravity of it all, was a cold shock. Voldemort wasn't just lurking. He was building. And the Leech. The Leech pulsed with a dark satisfaction, a part of its progenitor still relishing the unfolding plan. He felt the temptation, sharp and sudden, to give in, to simply know everything, to let the current drag him under. But he resisted, reaffirming his control. He was the master, not the servant. He found Professor Ashworth late that evening, the old wizard hunched over a tome filled with glowing symbols in his notoriously cluttered office. The air smelled of parchment, exotic spices, and something faintly metallic. "Potter," Ashworth said, not looking up, "your aura is a shade darker than usual. What new horror have you unearthed from the Serpent's lair?" Harry closed the door behind him, his voice low and urgent. "A ritual, Professor. A major one. He's planning a second coming, not just to regain a body, but a truer one. A vessel beyond anything before." Ashworth finally looked up, his sharp eyes piercing. "Details, Harry. The Leech doesn't just show you pretty pictures, does it?" Harry relayed everything, the ancient sites, the components, the incantations, the horrifying sense of a multi-stage process draining Britain's magical reserves. Ashworth listened, his expression unreadable, occasionally stroking his beard. "A second ascension," Ashworth murmured, a flicker of something akin to morbid fascination in his eyes. "Clever, truly. To drain the very land of its magic, to corrupt the ancient arteries of power for his own regeneration. That is beyond mere dark magic, Harry. That is a perversion of geomancy itself. It's happening now, isn't it?" Harry pressed. "The draining, the gathering. He's been preparing it since before the Chamber of Secrets, maybe even since his first defeat." "Indeed," Ashworth confirmed, tapping a long, bony finger on the desk. "A work of years, likely decades. The fragments you observed are not just memories, but a living blueprint, a part of his consciousness actively orchestrating this." He paused, looking directly at Harry. "You've gone deeper than I anticipated. Your control is formidable. But the deeper you delve, the greater the risk of immersion. Do you feel the pull, Harry? The lure of his ambition?" Harry swallowed, nodding. "It's tempting to just let go and absorb it all, to understand him completely. But I fight it. I know it's not me. And that, Potter, is the thin, gleaming wire you walk," Ashworth said gravely. "Intent, always intent. You wield a dangerous weapon, but your hand must remain steady. This knowledge is not to be used lightly or for personal power, but strategically. To thwart him. How do we stop it?" Harry asked, his voice firm. "We can't just let him finish this ritual. We disrupt it," Ashworth stated, "by using his own knowledge against him. But first, we need corroboration. The Leech's insights are raw data, unfiltered by context. Do you remember any specific runic structures, any unique historical markers that tie into these draining sites?" Harry cast his mind back, a faint image recurring, a very specific, ancient Celtic knot pattern carved into stone, subtly modified by more modern, darker runes. He mentioned it to Ashworth. "Excellent," Ashworth said, a rare, thin smile gracing his lips. "Now, for the corroboration." "Discreetly, of course." The next day, Harry approached Hermione in the library, where she was, unsurprisingly, surrounded by towering stacks of books. Hermione, he began casually, I'm having trouble with something for, my ancient runes essay. It's about, well, ancient magical energy flows. Specifically, I was wondering if there are any historical texts that discuss how ancient wizarding communities, say, before the Statute of Secrecy, might have channeled or redirected ambient magic from old, powerful places. You know, like standing stones or ancient burial mounds. Hermione, ever the eager scholar, didn't hesitate. Oh, that's fascinating, Harry. Professor Ashworth mentioned something similar in passing last week about ley lines and telluric currents. There's a particularly obscure volume in the restricted section, a compendium of pre-secrecy geomancy, that touches on the intentional manipulation of ambient magical energy for communal protection and even agriculture. I've been meaning to look at it myself. She made a mental note. I'll see if I can get permission from Dumbledore this afternoon. What specific patterns or sites are you interested in? Harry described the modified Celtic knot, feigning a vague memory from a dream. Hermione scribbled it down, her brow furrowed in concentration. I'll see what I can find. This could take a while, though. It's a very niche topic. A few days later, Hermione cornered him, a triumphant glint in her eyes. Harry, you won't believe what I found. That Celtic knot pattern you mentioned, it's detailed in a compendium of pre-secrecy geomancy. It's a very rare warding charm, meant to gather and amplify ambient magic. But there's a variation of it, detailed in an even older appendix, a dark arts counter pattern that reverses the flow, causing the ley lines to become stagnant or even poisonous to those attempting to harness them without proper safeguards. It's incredibly dangerous, though. It destabilizes the magic of the land. Harry felt a cold knot of dread and grim satisfaction. The Leech had been right. This wasn't just a ritual. It was an intricate web of magic Voldemort was weaving across the land. Hermione, unknowingly, had just handed him a weapon. Back in Ashworth's office, the professor pored over Hermione's meticulous notes, his expression becoming increasingly serious. She's good, your Granger. Very good. And remarkably oblivious. This confirms it, Harry. The ritual is designed not just to gather power, but to corrupt it, to force the very land to feed Voldemort's rebirth. The Second Ascension means he would become inexorably linked to the magic of Britain itself, making him near invincible on this soil. So, what's the plan? Harry asked, his voice steady. We know what he's doing. We know some of how he's doing it. Ashworth leaned back, eyes half closed. We leverage your unique advantage. Voldemort's intent is to create a vessel immune to traditional protective magic by feeding it the corrupted essence of the land. Our countermeasure must be equally radical. We must disrupt the ley lines, not just stop the flow, but twist it, make it toxic to his growing vessel. Your soul leech, Harry, offers us not just what he's doing, but how he intends to complete the connection to these energy points. His specific runic sequences, his internal timing. And the specific sites? Harry questioned. He's draining from more than one, right? Indeed. The Leech shows the primary nodes of his grand design. There are 3 major nexus points, all ancient places of power across Britain, which are the main conduits for the ritual's energy. And 1, the central chamber, where the final ascension is to take place. Ashworth tapped a worn map of Britain on his desk. Your task, Harry, is to visit these 3 nexus points and implement the counter pattern Hermione unwittingly described. It will require precise runic knowledge, a powerful magical output, and an unwavering will. Harry looked at the map, his gaze landing on the marked points. 3 ancient scars on the land, now to be poisoned. He felt the weight of it all, the sheer audacity. He was being asked to manipulate ancient, dangerous magic, using the very darkness within him to fight a greater darkness. The ethical tightrope was stretched taut, swaying precariously. But then, he remembered the cold calculation in Voldemort's fragmented mind, the casual cruelty, the utter disregard for life. He remembered his parents, their faces only ghosts in his memory, and the countless others Voldemort had destroyed. The fear he felt was real, but now it was tempered by a burning resolve. He wasn't Voldemort. He would never be. But he would use Voldemort's own weapons, Voldemort's own knowledge, against him. On his own terms. "I can do it," Harry said, his voice firm, resolute. "Tell me what I need. Show me how." Ashworth nodded slowly, a glint of approval in his eyes. "Good. The first nexus point is closer than you think." Beneath the ancient, crumbling stones of Stonehenge, deep within the earth, a vast channel of magic flows. Voldemort is already tapping into it. You will need to travel there, alone, and subtly apply the counter-curse. It's a precision operation, Harry. Not a battle. Not yet. Harry looked down at the map, tracing the line to the first nexus point. The weight of his new path settled over him. He wasn't just reacting to threats anymore, he was becoming the hunter. A dark, determined glint entered his emerald eyes. He felt the soul leech stir within him, a low hum of power, a whisper of dark anticipation. He met its presence with an unyielding mental command, a silent vow. My power, my intent, my war. The countdown had begun. The chill of the autumn night bit at Harry's skin, but it was nothing compared to the cold resolve that had settled in his heart. Deep within him, the soul leech pulsed, a subdued hum of dark energy that no longer threatened to overwhelm him, but instead served as a formidable, if chilling, ally. Voldemort's memories, once terrifying intruders, were now meticulously catalogued archives in Harry's mind, ready for recall. He knew the ritual site, an ancient, forgotten crypt beneath the deepest roots of the Whomping Willow, a place steeped in dark magic and rarely disturbed. He knew the purpose, a lesser ritual, designed not for Voldemort himself, but to consecrate an artifact, infusing it with residual life essence to make it a more potent vessel for dark influence. Harry slipped through the moon-dappled grounds, invisible under a carefully charmed cloak, a gift from Ashworth that shimmered with an unsettling, non-detection magic. He navigated the treacherous terrain with a fluidity that was less his own, more a borrowed echo of a predator's instinct. The Leech provided a constant stream of low-frequency alerts, sensing magic, intention, and even the subtle shifts in the air currents that betrayed a concealed ward. He reached the gnarled, thrashing branches of the Whomping Willow. It was oddly still tonight, its leaves rustling with an almost mournful sigh. Harry found the hidden indentation in its bark, a place known only to a select few, and to Voldemort. With a swift, practiced movement, he disarmed the ancient protection charm, the air rippling silently around his fingers. A narrow, dark fissure opened in the earth, leading into a gaping maw of darkness. He descended, wand gripped tight, the air growing heavy with the scent of damp earth and something acrid, metallic, like old blood and stagnant power. The passage spiraled downwards, crude and unlit, but Harry's enhanced senses pierced the gloom. He heard the low, rhythmic chanting before he saw the flickering candlelight. A faint, sickening green glow pulsed from the chamber ahead. He reached the bottom, peering around a rough-hewn corner. 3 figures in Death Eater robes stood in a circle, their wands pointed at a rough stone altar. Upon it lay a grotesque, obsidian-like dagger, pulsating with the same sickly green light. The air thrummed with raw magic, siphoned from some unseen source, likely the earth itself. One of them, a gaunt woman with lank dark hair, seemed to be leading the incantation, her voice rising and falling in an ancient, guttural language that prickled at Harry's skin. The dagger writhed, absorbing the malevolent energy. This was it. The moment of truth. Harry felt a surge of adrenaline, but it was quickly tamed, brought to heel by the years of mental discipline. The Leech stirred, offering a flood of tactical data, the precise strength of their shielding charms, the order of their incantations, the vulnerabilities in the ritual circle. He didn't hesitate. Obliviate. Not at the Death Eaters. His target was the arcane sigils etched into the chamber walls, the anchors for their ritual. The spell, powered by a controlled surge of dark intent drawn from the Leech, impacted with a surprising force. The ancient carvings shimmered, then fractured, the glowing lines fading into inert stone. The chanting faltered. The Death Eaters snapped their heads up, wands rising. "Who's there?" the gaunt woman hissed, her eyes scanning the darkness. "Someone who knows what you're doing." Harry's voice was low, laced with a cold authority that surprised even himself. He stepped fully into the light, his face shadowed, but his emerald eyes burning with an unnerving intensity. "Potter," one of the other Death Eaters snarled, recognizing the scar. "The Dark Lord will enjoy hearing about this." "He won't," Harry said calmly. "Because you won't be telling him." He didn't wait for them to cast. Using a flicker of foresight granted by the Leech, he anticipated their combined volley of curses. A split second before their spells erupted, Harry lunged forward, weaving through the space between them with impossible speed. He unleashed a barrage of his own. "Expelliarmus," he barked, but this wasn't the simple disarming charm Dumbledore taught. It was imbued with a searing force, a jolt of the Leech's power, turning the usually benign spell into a concussive blast. The first Death Eater's wand flew from his hand, not just disarmed, but propelled violently against the chamber wall, shattering. The wizard himself stumbled back, clutching his wrist in agony. The second Death Eater, a burly man, recovered quickly, launching a powerful stupefy. Harry didn't block, he redirected. With a flick of his wand that felt instinctive, he met the incoming spell with a low, silent murmur, a spell he'd seen Voldemort use in a memory, a subtle deflection charm that not only turned the curse aside, but amplified its momentum. The stupefy rebounded with terrifying velocity, striking the third Death Eater, a smaller, masked figure, square in the chest. They collapsed, unconscious. The gaunt woman shrieked, unleashing a volley of dark curses, a sickly yellow sectum sempra aimed at his legs, followed by a blinding purple confringo. Harry met them head-on. He didn't just dodge or shield, he countered. The Leech flooded his mind with a defensive matrix, not just of Protego, but of several ancient anti-curses, woven together with a precision only someone who had mastered the inner workings of dark magic could achieve. The sectum sempra dissipated into harmless smoke before it reached him. The confringo he caught with a sharp, controlled burst of his own magic, twisting its energy, sending it arcing into the very core of the stone altar. The obsidian dagger pulsed wildly, then erupted in a shower of obsidian shards as the altar cracked and split. The green light vanished, plunging the chamber into near darkness save for the flickering candlelight. You're not just a boy," the woman gasped, her face pale, her eyes wide with a fear that bordered on revulsion. What have you become?" "Effective," Harry replied, his voice devoid of emotion. He was no longer reacting. He was orchestrating. He saw her next move before she made it, a desperate attempt to apparate. "Impending magic, Potter," the Leech whispered, a cold, dry data point. "No, you don't," Harry snarled, a wave of binding magic bursting from his wand. He combined Ashworth's meticulous research into ward-breaking with a raw, almost instinctual understanding of magical energy flow gleamed from the Leech. The spell solidified around her, not just preventing apparition, but pinning her to the crumbling wall, her wand falling from nerveless fingers. Silence descended, broken only by Harry's measured breaths and the distant dripping of water. He stood amidst the debris of the ruined ritual, the unconscious Death Eaters, and the shattered dagger, a solitary, unyielding figure. The adrenaline had faded, replaced by a quiet sense of accomplishment, a deep-seated satisfaction that wasn't malicious, but merely efficient. He felt no thrill in the violence, no perverse joy in their defeat. Only the cold, clean feeling of a job done. The Leech was silent, a contented hum beneath the surface of his thoughts. It was not sated by the conflict, but by the demonstration of control, of mastery. He surveyed the scene, then methodically began to bind the unconscious Death Eaters. As he finished, a soft gasp echoed from the tunnel entrance. "Harry? What happened here?" Hermione, her face pale with shock, stood silhouetted against the opening. She must have followed him, perhaps sensed his unease, or picked up on the vague clues he dropped about a late-night investigation. Her eyes started from the bound Death Eaters to the ruined altar, then to Harry, who stood unmoving, his wand still raised, a faint, dark aura clinging to him like mist. "It's over, Hermione," he said, his voice flat, devoid of the usual tremor of triumph or fear. They were trying to consecrate a dark artifact. It stopped now. She edged closer, her gaze lingering on the splintered pieces of the dagger, then on the unnaturally tight bonds around the Death Eaters. "Harry, the magic I feel here, it's darker than anything I've ever sensed." "What did you do?" There was fear in her voice, but also a dawning respect and a profound curiosity. She hadn't seen him cast, but she could feel the residual power. "I used what I learned," Harry replied, meeting her gaze steadily. There was no apology in his eyes, no shame. "To stop them." Hermione shivered, pulling her cloak tighter. You weren't hurt?" "No," Harry said. "I wasn't." He paused, then added, a hint of his old self returning for her sake. "Thank you for coming, Hermione. But this wasn't safe." "I know," she whispered, looking at him as if seeing him for the first time. "But I had to make sure you were all right." She didn't press further, though the questions swirled in her eyes. For now, the sheer scale of the disruption, the undeniable effectiveness of Harry's actions, seemed to silence her usual need for logical explanation. They left the bound Death Eaters for the Ministry to find. A note left by Harry, penned with a quick flick of his wand and Ashworth's specific contact number, ensuring the right people were alerted without raising undue alarm about his involvement. Back in Ashworth's office, the old professor watched Harry with piercing eyes over a steaming cup of tea. Harry recounted the events with detached precision, every detail crisp in his memory. "Remarkable," Ashworth finally murmured, stirring his tea. "You disrupted the ritual, neutralized 3 trained operatives, and sustained no injury. More importantly, you did so with efficiency, without hesitation, and with no discernible loss of control." He took a slow sip, his gaze unwavering. "The Leech is no longer a wild thing, Harry. It is bound. Its knowledge, its raw power, all yours to command. You wield Voldemort's sword, but with your own hand and intent." Harry nodded, the weight of the realization settling deep within him. "I felt clear, focused. Every move, every spell, it was like I knew it before I did it. Like I was seeing several steps ahead." "That is the Leech," Ashworth confirmed. "Its innate understanding of dark magic, coupled with Voldemort's own honed instincts. But it is your will that directs it. Your core, Harry, remains uncorrupted. You simply chose to employ a different set of tools." He paused, a flicker of something almost like pride in his ancient eyes. "You have crossed a threshold, my boy. You are no longer merely reactive. You are a force. A weapon finely tuned against the very darkness that sought to consume you." Harry looked out the window, the faint outline of the castle towers visible against the pre-dawn sky. He thought of the Death Eaters, of their snarling faces and dark magic. He thought of Voldemort, unaware that his own creation had been forged into something far more dangerous to him. The fear was gone. In its place, a cold, quiet determination hummed. The war was coming. He knew it with every fiber of his being, and with every shard of memory he held from Voldemort. But now he was ready. He had faced the darkness within, mastered it, and turned it outwards. He was no longer Harry Potter, the boy who lived by accident, but Harry Potter, the wizard who would bring ruin to the Dark Lord, using every advantage, every shadow, every secret Voldemort had inadvertently shared. He had become the dominion of the Serpent. And the real battle was only just beginning.